My daughter looked me in the eye and called me old and pathetic, right in front of everyone at the party. I didn't react, I just smiled. But moments later, a single truth came out that froze the entire room, and suddenly the same. People judging me couldn't even meet my eyes anymore. The moment that cuts deep, when respect disappears. The words that stay with you'll, let me tell you something. Words don't leave, they live inside you'll. Let me tell you something. Words don't just disappear after they are spoken. Don't fade into the air like nothing happened. They stay. They sit inside you. They echo in your mind when the room is quiet. One sentence can follow you for years. One moment can replay again and again. Think about it. How many times have you remembered something someone said to you long ago? Not the good things, the sharp ones, the ones that cut deep. Words are like seeds. What gets planted in your mind will grow. And if those words are heavy, they grow into doubt, pain, and silence. When old and pathetic hit harder than any physical pain, now listen carefully. Physical pain fades, a wound heals, a bruise disappears. But words like old and pathetic, they don't heal the same way. They go deeper. They attack who you are, not just how you feel. Imagine giving your whole life to building something, raising a family, sacrificing your comfort, staying strong when no one saw your struggle, and then being reduced to a label. Just one word. It hits harder because it erases everything you've done. You start asking yourself, is that really how they see me now? Why it hurts more when it comes from your own blood, and here's the truth that hurts the most. It's not just the words, it's who said them. When it comes from your own blood, it cuts differently. Because you didn't expect it, because you trusted them, because you gave them everything without keeping score. A stranger's opinion doesn't break you, but someone you love, someone you protected, that hits your core. It makes you question your place, your value, your role in their life. You don't just feel hurt, you feel replaced. Have you ever given everything, only to be treated like nothing? Me ask you something? Have you ever given your time, your energy, your care, day after day, year after year after year after year? Anymore? Have you ever stood there, silent, while someone you built up looked at you like you were nothing? That moment, that exact moment, is where something inside you either breaks or wakes up, because you can't stay the same after that. You either accept it, or you start to see things differently. When love turns into judgment, when love slowly turns into criticism without you noticing it first. It's small. A comment here, a tone there. You brush it off. You tell yourself, it's nothing. But slowly, something changes. Love doesn't feel the same anymore. It feels heavier. What used to be warmth turns into sharp words. What used to be care turns into constant fault-finding. And the worst part? It happens so slowly you don't even notice when the shift begins. One day you wake up and realize the same person who once needed you now judges you from being needed. Every day. To being ignored like you don't matter. There was a time when they couldn't go a day without you. They needed your help, your advice, your presence. You were important. You were seen. And now you sit in the same space. But it feels different. You speak, but no one listens. You exist. It feels like you don't matter. That shift is painful. Not because life changed, but because your place in it did. You built them with your sacrifice. So why are you being questioned now? You gave your time when you were tired. You gave your strength when you were weak. You stood strong so they could stand it all. So let me ask you, how does it feel when the very people you built start questioning your worth? Doesn't make sense, does it? But this is what happens when people forget the hands that held them up. They start thinking they rose on their own, and that's where the pain grows deeper. The invisible pain. No one talks about feeling replaced in a life you once held together. There is a kind of pain people don't talk about. It's quiet. It doesn't shout. It sits inside you when no one is watching. It's the feeling of being replaced. The life you once held together. You look around and everything you built is still there. But your place in it feels smaller. Like you've been moved to the side without anyone saying it out loud. Like a book left on a shelf full of value, never opened. It's like being a book full of wisdom, full of stories, full of lessons. But no one opens you anymore. You still have value. You still have something to give. But people stop looking. They stop asking. They assume you have nothing left to offer, and slowly, you start to feel invisible. The dangerous moment when you start believing their words, but the most dangerous moment is not. When they say those words, it's when you start believing them. When their voice becomes your voice. When their opinion becomes your truth. When you look at yourself and see what they see instead of what you know. Because once that happens, you don't just lose respect from others, you lose it from yourself. The breaking point, when silence is no longer an option, the day everything changes, the moment you realize enough is enough. There comes a moment in life when something inside you shifts, not slowly, not gently. Suddenly you feel it in your chest. You feel it in your thoughts. You feel it in your silence. It's the moment you say, this is not okay anymore. You've stayed quiet for too long. You've ignored the signs. You've told yourself to be patient, to be understanding, to let it go. But deep down, our knew something wasn't right, and now you can't ignore it anymore. Enough is enough. That moment is powerful, because it's not about anger. It's about clarity. It's about finally seeing what you allowed, and deciding. It stops here. When silence stops being strength and starts becoming surrender, people often say staying quiet is strength, and sometimes it is. But let me tell you something. Silence is only strength when it protects your peace. The moment it starts protecting disrespect, it becomes weakness. Think about it. Every time you stay silent while being treated poorly, what are you teaching others? You're teaching them that it's okay. You're showing them that there are no limits, no lines, no consequences. Silence in that moment is not strength. It is surrender. And if you keep surrendering, piece by piece, you won't even recognize yourself anymore. The question that hits hard, are you going to stay this person or become someone new? Now comes the hardest question. It's the one you can't avoid. Are you going to stay this version of yourself? The one who accepts less, the one who stays quiet, the one who slowly disappears? Or are you ready to become someone new, not someone fake, not someone harsh, but someone who knows their worth, someone who stands firm, someone who refuses to be treated like they don't matter? This is your turning point, because change doesn't start outside. It starts inside. The moment you decide, I deserve better, everything begins to shift. But you have to choose it. No one else will choose it for you. The mirror doesn't lie facing the version of yourself you allowed. Look at yourself honestly. No filters, no excuses. The mirror doesn't lie. Not just the physical mirror, the inner one. The one that shows you your choices, your silence, your acceptance. Ask yourself, how did I allow this? Not to blame yourself, but to understand your role in it. Because the truth is simple. What you allow becomes your reality. And if you had the power to allow it, you also have the power to change it. But first, you have to face it. The cost of doing nothing. What you tolerate today will control you tomorrow. Every action has a result, but so does inaction. When you tolerate something today, you are giving it permission to grow tomorrow. That small disrespect you ignored, it becomes bigger. That silence you kept, it becomes your habit. And one day you wake up and realize you are no longer in control, because what you tolerated has taken over. If you don't take a stand now, you will pay the price later, and that price is your peace. If you keep shrinking, don't be surprised when others take your space. If you keep making yourself smaller, people will take more space. That's how it works. If you stop speaking, others will speak over you. If you stop standing firm, others will push past you. It's not always because they are bad. Sometimes it's because you showed them there was room to do it. So ask yourself, how much have you shrunk just to keep things calm? And was it worth it? Because every time you shrink, you lose a part of yourself. What you allow continues. What you allow grows. Listen carefully. What you allow continues. What you allow grows. Say it again. What you allow continues. What you allow grows. This is not just a sentence. 'Tis a rule of life. If you allow respect, it grows. If you allow disrespect, it grows too. So the question is simple. What are you allowing? Because whatever it is, that's what your life will become. The truth about aging, what they get completely wrong, age is not weakness. It's evidence there. Not getting old, you're collecting proof of survival. Or change the way you see this. You're not getting old. You are collecting proof. Proof that you made it through hard days. Proof that you stood strong when life tested you. Proof that you kept going when quitting would have been easier. Every year is not a loss, is a record of survival. Think about someone who has lived through struggle, pain, and responsibility. Do you call that weakness? No. That is strength, the kind of strength that cannot be taught. Only lived. Every scar, every lesson. Every year, that's your real power. Look at your life closely. Every scar tells a story. Every lesson came from a moment you didn't choose, but had to face. Every year added something to you. That is your real power, not speed, not appearance, not noise, but experience. There are people who speak loudly but know very little. And there are people who speak calmly but carry years of wisdom. Be the second one. The lie society keeps selling, the dangerous lie that youth equals value, and why it's wrong. The world keeps repeating one idea again and again. Young means valuable. Older means less. But let me tell you something. That idea is wrong. Youth has energy, yes. But energy without direction leads nowhere. Value comes from understanding, from experience. Yes. From knowing what matters and what doesn't, and that only comes with time. So why are people made to feel less just because they've lived longer? It doesn't make sense, because time doesn't reduce value. It builds it. How this mindset quietly destroys respect inside families. This false idea doesn't just stay outside. It enters homes. It enters families. Slowly, people start thinking. They know better just because they are younger. They forget the years of learning that came before them, and respect begins to fade. Not loudly, quietly, a tone changes. A word changes, a look changes, and before you know it, the people who once guided the family are no longer heard. That's how respect breaks, not in one moment, but in many small ones. Strength doesn't always look loud. Not all strength shouts. Some of it stands silent, and unshaken strength is not always loud. It does not always raise its voice. It does not always prove itself. Sometimes strength is quiet. It's the ability to stay calm when everything around you is chaotic. It's the ability to stand firm when others are losing control. That kind of strength doesn't need attention. It speaks through presence, and people feel it. Even if you say nothing, old trees don't make noise. But they outlast every storm. Think about an old tree. It doesn't move much. It doesn't make noise. It just stands there. But when the storm comes, it stays. While smaller trees shake, bend, or fall, the old tree remains. Why? Because it has deep roots. That's what time gives you. Roots. Strength that doesn't depend on noise. And that is something no one can take away from you. Maturity isn't loud, it's controlled. Calm and unbreakable maturity is not about speaking more. It's about knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It's not about reacting quickly. It's about responding wisely. A calm person is not weak. A controlled person is not soft. They are strong in a way most people don't understand. Because they are not controlled by others. The turning point, reclaiming your power of the decision, that changes everything the day you decide your worth. Everything starts to shift. Everything begins with a decision, not a loud one, not a public one, a quiet one. The day you decide your worth. Something changes inside you. You stop accepting what you used to accept. You stop staying where you used to stay. You stop agreeing with things that don't feel right. And people notice not because you told them, but because you changed. That is the power of a decision. It changes your direction without making noise. Stop looking for approval from people who already disrespect you. Let me be clear. If someone already sees you, As less nothing you do will suddenly change their mind, so why are you trying? Why are you waiting for approval from people who don't respect you? You don't need it. The moment you stop chasing their approval, you take your power back, because your worth was never in their hands. It was always in yours. Walking differently. Thinking differently when you change your mindset. Your presence changes too. When your thinking changes, everything else follows. You walk differently. You speak differently. You carry yourself differently. People can feel it. You don't have to say, "I've changed." They see it, because your energy is different. You are no longer unsure. You're no longer quiet in the wrong moments. You become steady, and that changes how people treat you. They notice the shift before they understand the reason at first. People won't understand what changed. They'll just feel it. They'll notice you don't react the same way. You don't accept the same things. You don't stay silent like before, and it will confuse them because they were used to the old version of you. But that version is gone, and the new one doesn't need to explain itself. You don't announce growth. You show it. Growth is not something you announce. You don't need to say it. You don't need to prove it. You show it through your actions, through your choices, through what you accept and what you walk away from. That is real change. Quiet, clear, strong. Respect is not asked. It's commanded. Respect isn't given to the loud. It's given to the consistent. Respect is not about being loud. It's not about forcing people to listen. It's about how you live every day. When your actions match your words, people notice. When your standards don't change, people adjust. That is how respect is built. Not in one moment, but over time. Boundaries. Actions, standards, that's how you command respect. You want respect, you need three things. Clear boundaries, strong actions, firm standards. You show people what is okay and what is not. You stand by it. You don't change it just to keep others happy, and slowly, people understand because you made it clear. Stop begging for respect. Become someone it can't be denied. To stop asking for respect. Stop waiting for it. Become someone who naturally receives it. Not by force, not by words, but by who you are. Because when you know your worth and you live by it, respect follows. The lesson they never expected. Growth they couldn't ignore. When you stop explaining yourself, the day you stop explaining is the day you start taking power back. There comes a day when you get tired of explaining yourself, tired of proving your intentions, tired of trying to make people understand what they have already decided not to understand, and that day changes everything, because every time you explain yourself to the wrong person, you give away a piece of your power. Lower yourself to their level of doubt. You start defending what should never need defense. But when you stop, something shifts. You stand differently. You feel lighter. You stop chasing understanding from people who were never willing to give it. That is the day you take your power back. Not by force, not by noise, but by silence and self-respect. Silence isn't weakness. It's a language only the strong understand. People think silence means you have nothing to say, that you gave up. You accepted defeat. But that's not true. Silence, when used right, is strength. It means you are not reacting to every word. You are not pulled into every argument. You are not wasting your energy trying to fix people who don't want to change. Silence says, I see what's happening, and I choose not to engage. It takes strength, because reacting is easy. Staying calm is hard. And only those who truly understand their worth can stay silent without feeling small. Let your actions speak so loud that words become unnecessary. You don't need to argue your value. You show it in the way you carry yourself, in the way you walk away from disrespect, in the way you hold your ground without shouting. Think about people that truly command respect. Do they talk too much? Do they explain themselves to everyone? No, their actions speak for them. So let yours do the same. Let your growth be so clear that no explanation is needed. The shift in dynamics when you change, people around you feel it immediately. The moment you change, everything around you starts to feel different. You may not say a word. You may not make a big move, but your energy shifts, and people feel it. They notice you don't react the same way. You don't accept the same behavior. You don't stay silent where you're used to. That change sends a message without words. It tells people things are not the same anymore. Confusion begins because they can't control the new UAT first. People get confused. They were used to the old version of you. The one who adjusted. The one who stayed quiet. The one who made things easy. But now, you're different. You don't bend the same way. You don't respond the same way. You don't allow the same things. And that confuses them. Not because you did something wrong, but because they lost control over what they were used to. Curiosity replaces comfort. They start watching you differently after. Confusion comes curiosity. They start watching you more closely. Trying to understand what changed. Trying to figure out how to deal with this new version of you because you are no longer predictable. You are no longer easy to overlook, and that makes them pay attention for the first time in a long time. They start seeing you again. The mirror. Affect your growth becomes a mirror they can't avoid looking into when you grow. Something powerful happens. You become a mirror, not by trying, not by pointing fingers, but simply by changing. People start seeing themselves through your actions. They see how they treated you. They see what they said. They see what they ignored. And it becomes uncomfortable because your growth highlights their behavior without you saying a single word. When you rise, their behavior gets exposed without you saying a word. Don't need to call anyone out. Your change does it for you. When you stop accepting less, it becomes clear who was giving you less. When you stand tall, it becomes clear who expected you to stay small. Your rise reveals everything. It shows the truth without arguments, without noise. And that truth is hard to ignore. What happens when the person you underestimated no longer needs you? Hey, now ask yourself this. What happens when the person you thought would always stay quiet stops needing you? What happens when they no longer depend on your approval, your attention, or your presence? Everything changes because the power shifts, and suddenly, the same person who was ignored becomes the one who decides. The hard truth about respect, it's not automatic, Reese, but must be. Maintained respect is not guaranteed, not even in your own home. Many people believe respect should come automatically, especially in close relationships, especially in families. But that's not how it works. Respect is not guaranteed, not by age, not by role, not by history, even in your own home. It can fade, and if you don't protect it, it will disappear. Because respect is not something you get once and keep forever. It must be maintained. It must be built. It's protected and defended. Every single day respect is built through how you act. It is protected through what you allow. And it is defended through the lines you draw. Every day you teach people how to treat you. Through your silence, through your reactions, through your choices. If you allow disrespect once, it doesn't stop there. It repeats, so you must be clear. Firm, steady, because what you don't protect, you will lose. Familiarity breeds disrespect the more available you are. The less valuable you seem, this may sound hard, but it's true. When you are always available, always giving, always adjusting, people start taking you for granted, not always on purpose, but it happens. Because when something is always there, people stop noticing its value. They expect it. And when something becomes expected, it stops being respected. When people think they know you, they start underestimating you. When people think they know everything about you, they stop trying to understand you. They put you in a box. They label you. They decide who you are. Without asking, and that leads to underestimation, they forget your strength. They ignore your growth. They assume you will always be the same. But people change in when they don't see that change. They fall behind. Why boundaries matter more with close people than strangers. It's easy to set limits with strangers, but with close people, it's harder. Because emotions are involved. History is involved. Attachment is involved. But that's exactly why boundaries matter more. Because the closer someone is, the more impact they have, and without clear limits. That impact can turn into harm. The line you must draw. You don't draw the line. They will cross it without thinking. There is no line. people will keep going. Not always because they want to hurt you, but because nothing stopped them before so. They assume it's okay. That's why you must draw the line, clearly, firmly. So there is no confusion, because once the line is visible, behavior changes. Clear standards create clear respect, no exceptions when. Your standards are clear. People know what to expect. They know what is okay and what is not. And that creates respect, not fear. Not distance respect, but only if you don't break your own standards. Because the moment you make exceptions, the line disappears and everything starts to fall apart again. The moment they realize, the day they finally see you differently, there comes a day when everything clicks for them. They look at you, and something feels different, not because you told them, but because you showed them. Your silence, your actions, your strength, it all adds up. And suddenly, see you in a new way. Not as someone they can ignore, but as someone they must respect, regret. Hits hard when they understand what they lost, and with that realization comes regret. They start thinking about how they treated you, what they said, what they ignored, and it hits them, because now they see your value. But they didn't see it before, and that feeling is heavy, because once respect is lost, it's not easy to rebuild. Words versus actions apologies are empty. Without real change behind them, words are easy. Anyone can say sorry. Anyone can promise to do better, but without change, those words mean nothing, because real respect is not shown in what you say, it's shown in what you do next. If nothing changes, then nothing was learned. Respect is not spoken, it's proven through behavior. Respect is not a sentence, it is behavior. It's how someone speaks to you, how they treat you, how they act when things are difficult. That is where respect shows itself. Not in promises. Not in quick apologies, but in actions that don't repeat the same mistake. The power of controlled response. No anger. No noise, just calm, unshakable clarity when the moment comes. You don't need to shout. You don't need to prove anything. You stay calm, and that calmness carries power because it shows control, shows clarity. It shows that you are no longer reacting. You are choosing, and that changes everything. True strength is staying composed when you could react. Anyone can react. Anyone can raise their voice. Anyone can lose control. But staying composed, that takes real strength, because you feel everything, but you choose not to let it control you. That is power. Quiet, steady, real. Your silence now carries more power than your words ever did. There was a time when you tried to explain everything, but now you don't need to. Your silence says enough. It shows growth. It shows strength. It shows that you no longer need to prove your worth. And that silence speaks louder than anything you could ever say. The deeper message. This was never just about one person. This story is about everyone listening. This isn't just a story. This is a mirror for your life. This is not just about one moment. It's not just about one person. This is about you. Look at this story like a mirror. Not to judge, not to feel bad, but to see clearly. Because somewhere in your life this is happening too. Maybe not with the same words, maybe not in the same way, but the feeling, the silence, the slow loss of respect, it exists. And the truth is simple. Most people don't notice it until it's too late. They keep adjusting. They keep staying quiet, keep telling themselves it's fine, until one day, don't recognize their own life. So don't just listen to this, see yourself in it. Because the lesson is not about what's happened, it's about what you will do next. Where are you being underestimated? And why are you allowing it? Ask yourself honestly. Where in your life are you being underestimated? Is it at home, at work, in your relationships? Or are you being treated like you don't matter? And now the harder question, why are you allowing it? Is it fear? Is it habit? Is it because you don't want conflict? Whatever the reason is, understand this. If you allow it once, it becomes normal. If you allow it again, it becomes expected. And soon, it becomes your reality. So don't just ask where it's happening. Ask why it's still happening, because that answer will change everything. The roles. We play sometimes you're the one being disrespected, and sometimes you're the one doing. If this is not one-sided sometimes, you are the one being treated unfairly. But other times, you are the one doing it to someone else. Maybe without realizing it. Maybe through your tone, your words, your actions. Think about it. Have you ever ignored someone who deserved your attention? Have you ever dismissed someone who gave you their best? It happens. And if you don't see it, you repeat it. Because disrespect doesn't always come from bad people. Sometimes it comes from people who stopped paying attention. The hard truth, you can't demand respect out. While giving disrespect here is a hard truth, you cannot ask for respect. While giving disrespect, it doesn't work that way. Respect is not something you demand. It is something you reflect. What you give, it comes back. So if you want to be treated with care, speak with care. If you want to be valued, show value to others. Because the way you treat people becomes the standard for how they treat you. And if that standard is low, don't be surprised when the results match it. The cycle you must break, disrespect doesn't. Start with you, but it can end with you. Many patterns are passed down from one person to another. From one generation to the next, disrespect is one of them. Maybe you saw it growing up. Maybe you experienced it for years. Maybe it became normal to you. But just because it started before you doesn't mean it has to continue with you. You can stop it. You can decide that it ends here, not by words, but by change. Because someone has to break the cycle. Why not you? What you tolerate today will be repeated tomorrow. Everything you allow today becomes a pattern tomorrow. If you ignore it, it grows. If you accept it, it repeats. That's how cycles are built, one moment at a time. So look at what you are tolerating right now, because whatever it is, it will come back again. Maybe stronger, maybe louder, but it will retune unless you stop it. Awareness is the first step, but action is what breaks the cycle. Seeing the problem is important, but it's not enough. Many people are aware. They know what's wrong. They feel it every day, but they don't act, and nothing changes. Awareness opens your eyes. Action changes your life. So don't stop at understanding. Do something about it, because that is where real change begins. The final impact, the truth you must carry forward. Respect yourself first, or no one else will. If you don't respect yourself, why should anyone else? Let's be honest. If you don't respect yourself, why should anyone else? If you accept being treated poorly, why would someone suddenly treat you better? People follow what you show them. If you show them that it's okay to ignore you, they will ignore you. If you show them that your voice doesn't matter, they will stop listening. It starts with you, not them. The way you speak to yourself, the way you carry yourself, the way you respond to disrespect, that sets the standard. So ask yourself, what standard are you setting? Because whatever it is, that's what your life will reflect. Respect starts with you, and it always has. Respect doesn't begin outside, it begins inside. It begins the moment you decide, I matter. Not because someone told you, not because someone agreed, but because you know it. And once you know it, your actions change. You stop accepting less. You stop staying silent in the wrong moments. You stop shrinking yourself. And that shift is powerful, because when you respect yourself, others feel it and they adjust. Never shrink to fit someone else's comfort. If they need you smaller to feel bigger, you're in the wrong place. If someone needs you to be smaller so they can feel bigger, that is not your place. That is not your environment. Because the right place doesn't ask you to reduce yourself. It allows you to grow. So if you find yourself holding back, staying quiet, or lowering your value just to keep someone comfortable, you need to ask yourself, why am I staying here? Because you deserve better than that. Stop reducing yourself just to keep others comfortable. Too many people live like this. They stay quiet when they should speak. They agree when they should stand firm. They adjust when they should walk away. All to keep others comfortable. But what about you? About your peace, your voice, your value? If keeping others comfortable is costing you your self-respect, it's too expensive. Stop reducing yourself, because the more you shrink, the more you disappear. The question that stays with you: who are you becoming, and is it someone you're proud of? Take a moment and think. Who are you becoming? Not who you were, not who people think you are, but who you are becoming right now. Are you proud of that person? Or are you slowly turning into someone you don't recognize? Because every choice you make shapes that answer. Every time you stay silent, every time you accept less, every time you ignore what you feel, it builds your future self. So be honest. Is this who you want to be? Who are you allowing others to turn you into? And here is the deeper question. Who are you allowing others to turn you into? Because people influence you, their words, their actions, their behavior, but only if you let them. So ask yourself, are you becoming stronger or smaller? Are you becoming clear or confused? Because the answer is not in them. The legacy you leave behind, what example are you setting without even realizing it? People are always watching, not just what you say, but what you do, the way you handle disrespect, the way you carry yourself, way you respond to pressure. It all sends a message, and that message becomes an example. So ask yourself, what are you teaching others through your actions? Because even when you say nothing, you are still showing something. Your actions today will shape someone else's tomorrow. What you do today doesn't just affect you, it affects others. Your choices, your behavior, your standards, they influence people around you, especially those who look up to you. So understand this. The way you live today will shape someone else's tomorrow, and that is a responsibility you cannot ignore. Closing. Power statement: they called you old. They called you pathetic. But they misjudged your strength. They looked at you and made a decision. They thought they understood you. They used words to define you. Old, pathetic. But they were wrong, because they only saw the surface. They didn't see your strength. You were never finished. You were just getting started. You were never at the end. You were at the beginning of something new, stronger, clearer, wiser, and now you see everything differently. This is not your ending. This is where you rise.